YouTube, today we're going to go over the Sand team featuring Tyranitar, Excadrill, and Galarian Darmanitan that I use for back-to-back battles. Let's get started and roll the episode. So why Sand? It started off with a core that I had featuring Thundurus and Galarian Darmanitan. However, the core was super weak to Regieleki, so I needed a Pokemon that can be able to handle Regieleki, and there were a lot of things that I just really didn't like that could handle Eleki as well. But then I thought, oh wait, Excadrill has been a Pokemon that has been requested in the comment section. I think it has a lot of potential because it has a really good typing, can really do a lot of damage with its max move. So I thought, you know what, it does outspeed Eleki too, so I don't even have to Dynamax in a lot of cases. So I thought, you know what, this might be a perfect fit. So I ended up combining some of the ideas that I had and featuring the Sand offense team that was born here. So how was the team formed? Well, it actually started off with a Zamazenta team. So I originally had Zamazenta with Thundurus as a core with Galarian Darmanitan because I thought it'd be a really cool hyper offensive combination. You saw Vest Thundurus with the coaching, and I thought it'd be pretty cool. Galarian Darmanitan was added to that team because it helped against like Landers. And I thought, you know what? It's really weak to Regieleki, and there weren't many Pokemon that could help fix up the matchup. So I ended up scrapping the Zamazenta and trying to figure out new ways to figure out how to deal with Eleki. And then I thought, you know what? Excadrill makes a lot of sense. Its Sand Rush ability allows it to outspeed. I don't even have to max Eleki to handle the Regielekis, and it could be a really effective Pokemon in that matchup. So I thought, you know what? Let's bring back Sand. So I added the Excadrill and Tyranitar to the team that I originally had, the core combination with Darmanitan and Thundurus. Really good physical offensive combinations. So the next step was adding the restricted Pokemon, and here I felt like, you know, I considered Reshiram. It wasn't that bad of a Pokemon on the team, added the fire coverage, but I felt like I was super weak to fighting in general. Just fighting coverage just seemed really rough for my team, and I thought, you know, maybe I could probably add something to help against that, so having an immunity would be really nice. So I thought Shadow Rider Calyrex made a lot of sense, especially since this was a hyper offensive team, and Calyrex and Darmanitan are really good at beating like Incineroar, which means my Thundurus could potentially just get the Defiant, which could be absolutely insane. So I thought, you know what, that would probably be a better fit for this team. So I added the Calyrex Shadow Rider to the team, and then to draw out the last Pokemon on the team, I needed something that can handle Urshifu, because Dark Urshifu, Water Urshifu, those Pokemon are pretty problematic. So I felt like I needed a fairy type. I needed a decent switch into it. I also was kind of a bit weak to Trick Room, so I would have liked someone that could help stall out a little bit. I do have Taunt Tyranitar to help prevent the Trick Room, but I would like something a bit bulkier that can, you know, maybe stall out a few Trick Room turns if I can't get the Taunt off with Tyranitar. So I thought about it. I also wanted kind of a water switch in, and you know, Tapu Fini kind of just fit all those roles. So I added Tapu Fini to the team to help against the Urshifus, to give the team the fairy and water coverage I think it wanted, and that is how the team was formed. Alright, let's go over the items, the movesets, and the EV spreads of the team. We have Assault Vest Thundurus up first with the Defiant ability with Wall Charge, Fly, Superpower, and Lash Out. Pretty strong Pokemon. The Defiant ability makes this Pokemon really crazy because of the fact that, you know, Incineroar is a very common Pokemon, Landorus is a pretty common Pokemon, and being able to get an attack boost instead really makes them think twice about leading or switching into those Intimidate mods. So Thundurus is really cool. The Airstream boost can really help out the Galarian Darmanitan as well as the Calyrex. And then there's some Max Darkness combinations, Max Knuckle combinations that you can pull off with the Thundurus as well. It really helps support them. So even though this Pokemon's kind of fell off because Eleki Dynamax has become more of a common option against the Thundurus teams and they figured out to play around it, I think overall it's still a pretty decent pick for the most part, and I still think it's a pretty strong Pokemon. The only downside is its damage outside of Dynamax is really pitiful, as it really does tend to miss out a lot of knockouts, even with the +1 sometimes. So overall, I still think it was a strong pick on this team at Wall Charge, Fly, Superpower, and Lash Out. Of course, Wall Charge and Fly are going to be the coverage moves. Superpower, of course, for the Max Knuckles, and, you know, hitting the Incineroar outside or Dynamax is nice. Lash Out helps out with the Calyrex Shadow Rider matchups or the mirrors, and then it also helps with the Max Darkness combination for Calyrex if the Thundurus got an Airstream boost and Calyrex got a free switch in. So overall, EV spread, not really much to say about it. I went with a max speed, max attack, and 4 HP Thundurus. I just want to outspeed anything that could be like in the slower tier, like base 100s, base 110s even. I think it's just a pretty nice thing to have. And then, yeah, just go max attack because this Pokemon really needs to help. And then 4 HP. Overall, the Assault Vest lets me run the 4 moves, and it helps me against Eleki a little bit more. So I felt like, you know, it's still a pretty solid option overall, and I felt like it just fits and it just helps me out against Calyrex Shadow Rider taking the attack, Eleki taking the attack. I had no really problems with it. It wasn't meant for like a good general bulk. It was just to take those moves so I can usually just fire off a max move and guarantee it. which can be really good in a lot of situations. So yeah, Thundurus, even though it's kind of fallen off, still pretty strong Pokemon, especially if it is able to get the setup properly. Next up we have is Excadrill with the Life Orb, Sand Rush for the ability with Earthquake, Iron Head, Swords Dance, Protect. Really fun Pokemon. I loved using this in Gen 5. Dynamax makes this Pokemon pretty insane. It has a pretty high base HP stat. Steel type, of course, great defensive typing, and it can boost up its defenses on top of throwing off really strong max moves. Really strong option. Of course, Incineroar Landis variant with Intimidate makes this Pokemon really hard to use, and Sun has been pretty threatening to Excadrill. So overall, it's hard to use now, but it still has some really good potential. And I think with the Life Orb here, I had Life Orb over Weakness Policy because I was thinking about Weakness Policy, but I felt like, when am I really getting the Weakness Policy up? I feel like with all the damage output that this format offers, I feel like it's really hard to set up a Weakness Policy compared to like series without restricted. I felt like, you know, I'll just go with the Life Orb. It really dishes out damage, punishes like Stations I think that could stay in after an Intimidate because it gets pretty hard threatened after that. So yeah, overall Sand Rush, fantastic ability for the speed boost. Earthquake, of course, for the coverage. Iron Head as well. Swords Dance I felt like was pretty nice because I felt like I didn't need the rock coverage because I already had rock move on Darmanitan and I had a Tyranitar. So I felt like I didn't need the rock coverage, and Swords Dance is always really nice pressure, especially with like Airstream or the sand in the back as a boost. So Protect, of course, to preserve the Excadrill as well. And then finally the EV spread here. I knew I was going to go with max speed basically with an Adamant Nature because I wanted to basically boost up its attack stat. I felt like I didn't really need anything that jolly would outspeed. I liked Adamant because it does guarantee outspeed Regieleki, and I felt like that was very important. So having max speed was pretty much crucial. I went with like near max attack. I gave it a +1 stat point with the Adamant Nature, just so it can dish out a lot of damage with the Life Orb, even without the Swords Dance boost, which I felt like is pretty nice. And then I just added a little bit extra to HP and defense because, you know, I have the max moves that are boosting up the defenses. I could go a little bit more bulkier and it can maybe affect some calcs overall. And I don't feel like I need all the attack because I still had Swords Dance as an option as well as the Life Orb backing me up. So overall, I think Excadrill is a really solid Pokemon. I think it's way harder to set up Sand than it was initially than I thought, but overall, when it was able to be set up, Excadrill was able to be a really strong offensive attacker and can really pressure a lot of teams, especially with the max move boosting up its defenses. So it can make teams that like play a bit defensively against the Excadrill get punished because then they aren't able to KO the Excadrill if they are busy switching around the max moves. The next Pokemon we have is the Shadow Rider Calyrex with the spell tag as one for the ability with Astral Barrage, Expanding Force, Substitute, Protect. This Pokemon absolutely insane. Natural bulk is pretty decent, but overall base 165 special attack, base 150 speed, crazy spread move. This thing too insane. Overall, super strong Pokemon, really fits on a hyper offensive team, can really take advantage of Thundurus, which I think is really nice here. And yeah, overall very solid. So spell tag, I gave it the item as because I didn't really feel like Life Orb was really necessary. I felt like I wouldn't be clicking Expanding Force too much. I'd just be clicking the max Ghost move most of the time, or just be going for Astral Barrage anyway. So I felt like I didn't need the extra boost for the Expanding Force for the Life Orb chip. So I felt like, you know, I'll just go with the spell tag. I think it's pretty solid and is pretty consistent, and I don't think I'll really need the extra damage output for the Expanding Force. Maybe against Dynamax Venusaur, it could be a thing. But I felt like, you know, I would probably just rely on Darm or Thundurus to take care of Venusaur most of the time anyway, so I felt like it wasn't as important. So as one for the ability, of course, crazy. No need to really talk about that. It's super strong. The special attack boost, Unnerve as well. Very solid. Astral Barrage for the coverage, of course. Like, what Calyrex is not running Astral Barrage or Glacial Lance? Let's be real. Expanding Force. So I thought about this, and I thought about like running Psychic or Size Shock. But I felt like, you know, in a Dynamax format, I could sometimes just max the Calyrex and then have the Expanding Force threat. Might as well just have Expanding Force, even though I don't have an Entity. There are situations where I am Dynamaxing Calyrex and going for it, so I might as well just have it a really good sweep option, especially if I am able to pull it off. Substitute. I wasn't sure about Substitute here, so I thought like I would be Dynamaxing Thundurus most of the time, so I wasn't sure like what I want to use on the Calyrex. Mudshot I feel like was okay, but I felt like, you know, I could sub against some Pokemon and that would really be able to put on pressure, and maybe they wouldn't expect sub Calyrex because it was more of a Series 10 thing, but I really liked it back in Series 8, so you know, I'll try Substitute again. I think it was a really good move when I used it back then, and I think it's still a really strong move. I think Mudshot would be pretty much considered as well. I think both are really solid. I think it just really depends on what you're facing, but I really did like sub in situations. And then Protect, of course, to preserve the Calyrex. So for the EV spread, I went with max special attack, max speed, and the 4, I think I might have had an HP because that was the Calyrex that I had on the team, but I would change this. I would definitely go with 4 defense because I feel like taking the extra bit of sand chip isn't that optimal. And of course, it does affect maybe some substitute numbers because you will only be able to get 3 substitutes up maximum because it's a number divisible by 4. So you do want a number that's not evenly divisible by 4 so you can get guaranteed 4 substitutes up. So I would make sure to change that. But overall, this Pokemon just outspeed other Calyxes or at least speed tie them. And of course, the outspeed the Jolly Zacians that have been more common. It's a really fast threat that's really good. And yeah, not much else to say about Calyx. So next Pokemon we have is the Choice Scarf Galar Darmanitan with Gorilla Tactics for the ability with Icicle Crash, Earthquake, Rock Slide, and Flare Blitz. This Pokemon is a reason it's banned in singles. It's absolutely crazy. Base 140 attack, basically free choice band, and you could run a Choice Scarf. They have a +1 speed, +1 attack basically, and it's absolutely crazy. It also hits really hard with its damaging moves. Its coverage is really solid for a lot of stuff that's really common in this format, such as Landorus, Thundurus, Zacian, Rillaboom, Incineroar. It can hit all those Pokemon, Charizard, Venusaur. It just does so much damage to those common Pokemon. It's such a big threat overall. I really do like this Pokemon, and I think it has a lot of potential. Of course, downside is that it is, you know, you usually want to run the Choice Scarf most of the time because of the fact that its speed tier isn't the best and its bulk is pretty, well, it's not that bad because of the high HP stat, but its actual defenses are pretty poor. So it is a really big glass cannon, but it can really cause some pain right there. The Icicle Crash, Earthquake, Rock Slide, and Flare Blitz overall as the moveset. I think Icicle Crash, of course, for the big flying type Pokemon. Earthquake I felt like was pretty nice with a pairing with Thundurus, which was pretty solid. Rock Slide, I ran it for Charizard just in case, especially since I had it on the Zamazenta team earlier. Then Flare Blitz, I ran Flare Blitz to threaten the Zacian, which I felt like was pretty important. Overall, I think the moveset, there's so many good moves that Darmanitan can get. I considered U-Turn, I considered Superpower. I was testing those before too, but I felt like this was probably the best common moveset, but still, I'm not sure because this thing has so many good moves, and U-Turn shit would have been nice as well. So it's really hard to say, but it's really strong. The E-Spread, not much to say here. I did go with an Adamant Nature over a Jolly Nature, and that might be a little bit strange because of the fact that I am going to be underspeeding Landisfarian if it gets an Airstream if they're Jolly, but it does allow me to underspeed my Calyrex, which was kind of one of the gimmicks I felt like on this team that I had originally with the Max Ghost being able to minus defense the opponent and then following up with a big hit from Darmanitan. This Pokemon can knock out Dynamax Pokemon. It's absolutely crazy. And that was the reason why I want to try out this Adamant combination with Darmanitan and Calyrex. So next up, we have the Focus Sash Tyranitar with the Sandstream ability with Ancient Power, Dark Pulse, Taunt, and Protect. Now, normally Tyranitar is not really good in a restricted format because there's so many threats to Tyranitar, Zacian, Kyogre, Groudon, to name a few of them. But overall, it's good against Shadow Rider, Calyrex. The Sandstream does help out with the special defense boost for Tyranitar to take care of it, as well as the Excadrill. So I felt like, you know, it's a pretty good Pokemon here on this team. I really like Focus Sash Tyranitar in restricted formats because, you know, there's Kyogre and a bunch of other things that can really handle Tyranitar. I usually like surviving those attacks. And Ancient Power, Dark Pulse, Taunt, and Protect. I really like Special Tyranitar, and I don't really know too much. I really like Taunt here because of the fact that this team is, again, hyper offensive, doesn't really do well against Trick Room, so I really like the Taunt option. And then I like Rock Slide and like Lash Out or Crunch wouldn't really be doing as much damage. I felt like, you know, I like the Dark Pulse for like consistency because of like hitting Calyrex Shadow Riders decently hard, especially through the Intimidates. I felt like it's pretty good. I like having that little bit of coverage. And then Ancient Power. So I didn't have Ancient Power originally. I had like Ice Beam, Flamethrower I was testing, you know, to help out against like Landorus or maybe Ferrothorns, which could be annoying. So I was testing that for a bit, but I just ended up going with Ancient Power because I wasn't sure like what I really wanted to use on it, and I thought, you know, might as well just have that backup answer to Charizard, I guess. It'll also be pretty funny against like Grimmsnarl Charizard leads if they try to reflect up and get the reflect up for Tyranitar, and I just go for the special Ancient Power max move. It's pretty funny in those occasions. So overall, this Tyranitar does the job it needs to do decently fast to take advantage of the Airstreams from Thunduruses. And yes, this is what the Tyranitar does. Max speed on Tyranitar with max special attack and 4 HP. Not really much else to say about this Tyranitar. It does the job it needs to do. Gets the sand up for Excadrill, the Taunt for a little bit of support, and a Dark Pulse and Ancient Power for, you know, a bit of decent consistency through Intimidate mods for the damage output. Final Pokemon we have to help out against our Shifus. Leftovers Tapu Fini with the Misty Search ability with Muddy Water, Moonblast, Calm Mind, Protect. Overall, very solid Pokemon. Tapu Fini is a Pokemon that usually drops in restricted formats too. It's just not really as solid because, you know, it doesn't really hit that hard. It takes quite a few turns to set up, and there's so much damage up in this format. It's really hard to set up efficiently. So I did want to try it though because of the help that it does provide against their Shifus, which I felt like is really important. So trying out the leftover Tapu Fini here with the Muddy Water, Moonblast, Calm Mind, Protect. I wasn't really sure of any support moves that I was going to really run the Tapu Fini. I already had Taunt on Tyranitar, so I felt like I didn't really need it. So I just went with Calm Mind, so I can help out stall the Trick Rooms, especially with the Torkoal teams. Calm Mind to help against the Eruption, which is a decently hard move to switch into for my team. And then the EV spread overall, it's not exactly the greatest, I think, for this format. I think it's probably better for a non-restricted format because it needs special attack. It really does. So I went with 244 HP, which maximizes the leftovers recovery. I went with the 116 defense, which is just very comfortable. This is an old Series 7 spread. 4 special attack was left over. The 76 calm gives me a +1 stat point. And then 68 speed. This allows me to outspeed, I guess, like Shadow Rider Calyxes and a few other things at +2 with the Airstream boost. And overall, I don't think it's really that great. I think Fini was a decent Pokemon on the team, but I really need more special attack investment. I would probably just like, I didn't really need all the special defense investment either, so I think I could like drop all the special defense and put into special attack because I needed a lot of Muddy Waters to do a decent amount of damage, especially against like Incineroars, and Zacian subs were really annoying. So I would really like more special attack just to be able to like chip away at those, especially the bulkier Zacian subs. But overall, I feel like Fini did the job I needed to do, help out against her Shifu, which is always really nice, and the coverage to help out the team and balance it overall, while like a defensive Pokemon that can decently stall out Trick Room efficiently. So pretty solid Pokemon, and I really did think Tapu Fini was a good mon on this team. So how to use the team and what are the common leads with the team? Overall, it's got a lot of big tools that could really dish out a lot of damage. Excadrill, Calyx, Darmanitan, and Thundurus, really strong offensive Pokemon, pick up some really quick knockouts. So it's really just about delivering the pressure with the fast Pokemon. Overall, I'd say the common leads, I'd say Excadrill, Tyranitar. Of course, if they don't have Weather, it's a fantastic lead. If Excadrill's really good in the matchup, you could pretty much threaten Dynamax moves or Swords Dance immediately, which is really nice. Tyranitar is really good to help with the Taunt pressure. Another really good lead is just anything with Thundurus. Thundurus is a really good lead with this team. And I mean really good lead with this team. Because it's a Defiant, you could pretty much attract Incineroar with the Intimidate, as well as helping out with the Shadow Rider usually for the opponent. So overall, Thundurus is just a fantastic lead, and I really do love the combination. It really helps out with Excadrill, really good with Darmanitan, and really good with Calyx. So overall, I really do like the Thundurus lead a lot. With the Airstream boost, helps out the Calyx, the Darmanitan, and Excadrill. Just has so much output that it can really dish out. And then I would say another potential lead I really do like is just a Calyx, if anything. I really do like Calyx just for the Max Ghost, as the Max Ghost can really help out Darmanitan. The Calyx is faster than the Darmanitan with the Choice Scarf, so you could go for like Max Phantasm into a Darmanitan KO because of how powerful this Pokemon is, and it really just goes insane. Otherwise, you'll probably play defensive, maybe with a Fini, Tyranitar passive. It really just depends on the team. It helps out against slower teams, getting some chip and preventing Trick Rooms with Taunt and trying to stall it out with Calm Mind usually. And yeah, that's what I would say the common leads with the team are. Otherwise, a lot of the stuff is going to be situational. And that is the show. I hope you all enjoyed the thought process of what went behind the makings of the Sand team. If you did, please leave a like down below, leave a comment down below. It really does help me out. And make sure to try out this team with the render code on your screen. And you could go check out the paste bin available down below in the description, but you have 2 weeks to grab this team before the code expires. And you could always check out the videos that this team was featured in and some other cool teams, such as my Mudsdale team, my Slowking team, my Magnezone team. I got a lot of cool teams that I feature on the channel. But otherwise, thank you all for tuning in. Have a great day, people, and until we bow again, I'll catch you all later.